Today on Newsbeat, the deadline to prevent massive federal budget cuts is looming. We'll have more details on the problems in Washington.
Plus, the doors officially closed in Benedict XVI's reign on the Catholic Church.
But first, we have an update on a traffic light that could make your commute a little easier. Newsbeat starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Jake Robles.
And I'm Stephanie Caprera. Thanks for joining us. We have an update on the traffic light being installed at the intersection of West Parker and Burbank. It works, finally. The traffic light, which wasn't scheduled to be turned on until the summer, was activated by DOTD more than 3 months ahead of schedule. It's one of several projects planned to revamp the area. Next up is the removal of the light at East Boyd and Burbank. Stories of the undead are very popular on television and in the movies. And right now, LSU PD is battling zombie-like behavior from students here on campus. Right now, Patrick Clay explains how the LSU PD gave life to their new campaign.
LSU, watch out! The zombie apocalypse is upon us! At least, according to the LSU PD.
Would you like a sticker, sir?
The department's new campaign, Mike's Tiger Resistance, calls for students to not be zombies as they make their way across campus by foot, bike, or skateboard. So what is a student zombie?
It's just someone that's focused and not really paying attention to what they're doing.
After 3 separate accidents involving walkers in 2 weeks' time occurred last fall, LSU PD spokesman Corey Lalonde says the department wanted to make a change.
I'd say probably about 90% of the accidents that we did have last semester that were involving pedestrians and cyclists were situations where one person involved really wasn't paying close enough attention. And that's why we thought it was a big enough issue where we needed to really try to educate the community.
As the LSU PD looks to prevent pedestrian accidents on campus, like someone riding a scooter, for example, their goal is to make LSU a safer place to get around. Jude Baumgartner, an LSU student who skateboards to and from each of his classes, says he supports a campaign that makes his daily commutes less dangerous.
It's good to keep people safe. It's good that people don't die or get hurt or something like that, you know. I think mostly the biggest thing that gets in the way is just people on their cell phones, though. You know, like that's really what gets people hit and stuff like that.
So, as LSU PD hopes to eliminate these student zombies on campus, are there other types of zombies we need to worry about? So you haven't seen any actual zombies walking around yet?
No, none yet.
Keep an eye out?
We'll always keep an eye out for that, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
For Tiger TV, I'm Patrick Clay.
You can find more information about Mike's Tiger Resistance on LSU PD's website. Massive budget cuts within the LSU system mirror what's going on in our nation's capital.
And as Emily Schmidt reports, the United States could soon feel the effects of large cuts as well.
As the mandatory budget cut clock ticks, plenty of people are sounding the alarm.
The reality is that there is going to be harm. There is going to be pain, and the American people are going to be less safe.
It would be a drag on near-term economic recovery.
Warnings in Washington and warnings nationwide about the potential impact of $85 billion in forced across-the-board budget cuts.
We're all holding our breath and hoping that they don't cut the elderly nutrition program.
Fewer Meals on Wheels in Wisconsin, fewer slots for Head Start kids in Iowa.
It becomes very hard to look at families and go, sorry, not today.
Fewer federal dollars to support California jobs.
In San Diego, we have 1 in 5 people who are working for the government in one shape or form.
These cuts are wrong.
President Obama went to Virginia military country to blame the stalemate on congressional Republicans.
There are too many Republicans in Congress right now who refuse to compromise even an inch when it comes to closing tax loopholes and special interest tax breaks.
I don't think the president's focused on trying to find a solution to the sequester.
House Speaker John Boehner criticized the president and blamed Senate Democrats in memorable language.
We have moved a bill in the House twice. We should not have to move a third bill before the Senate gets off their ass and begins to do something.
With little time left to waste, there's more talk of the cuts' impact than of last-ditch solutions to avert them. In Washington, I'm Emily Schmidt.
Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid responded today to Speaker Boehner's comment. Reid, a Democrat, said, quote, "I think he should understand who is sitting on their posterior. We are doing our best here to pass something. The Speaker is doing nothing to try to pass anything over there," end quote. Also, it's day 5 of the civil trial stemming from the BP oil disaster almost 3 years ago. BP has already paid billions in settlements, but the talks for the remaining settlements broke down. Both sides have an army of lawyers to argue their cases. BP wants the judge to rule them negligent instead of grossly negligent, but environmentalists say they hope for landmark punishments.
It should be the maximum end of the fines, and you know, the damage done here is real, both to the environment and to the people, and BP should not have the chance to get let off cheaply on this.
The difference between the two rulings could be as much as $20 billion in penalties for BP. Many Louisiana residents lost their homes when Hurricane Isaac hit last year.
But nearly 200 others lost their eternal resting places. Police in Plaquemines Parish say dozens of caskets were displaced by the Isaac's high floodwaters. They are using written records and GPS to return the caskets to their proper locations. One woman says she's happy her mother is back where she belongs.
We are so relieved to know that she's back where, you know, she wanted to be.
Plaquemines Parish dealt with the same situation after Hurricane Katrina. Benedict XVI is no longer the head of the Catholic Church. His resignation became official at 1 p.m. local time. Benedict spent the morning greeting cardinals one last time as pontiff. The cardinals will begin the process of selecting the next pope as early as Monday.
Check out this video. It was shot in Gretna during those nasty storms this weekend.
Luckily, it looks like this weekend will be all sunshine, but a bit on the cold side. Chief Meteorologist Robert Gautreaux III has more after the break.
Good evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Robert Gautreaux III, and we won't see any hail this weekend, but it will definitely be cold. It was actually really cold today. It barely got above 50 degrees. If we take a look at the satellite, you can see this cloud blanket kind of over Louisiana. It was keeping a lot of the sun from hitting Louisiana, which kept us cold. We only got to about 50, maybe 51 here in Baton Rouge. It was fairly chilly. Let's take a look at tonight. Speaking of chilly, 35 degrees is the low tonight. It should be mostly clear, maybe a cloud or two, but wherever you're going to go, bring a jacket. It's going to be cold. Tomorrow, we can expect a high of maybe 57 degrees, blue sky, west wind of 5 miles per hour. Lots of sun, again, maybe a cloud or two, but it's going to be fairly pretty tomorrow. And like I said, for the rest of the week, fairly sunny. The coldest day will be on Saturday, where our high will only reach 50 degrees again like today, but our low will reach 29 degrees. A cool thing to do with your kids maybe is to go outside with a cup of water and watch it freeze overnight. It's going to be that cold on Saturday night. For the most up-to-date weather, you can listen to me on 91.1 KLSU, find me on Facebook or Twitter, or my website at robertthe3rd.com.
Thanks, Robert. After the break, Ariana Prasad tells us about the U.S.'s pledge to Syria.
And she'll take a look at the U.S.'s new Secretary of Defense and some of the plans he may have for defense abroad. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Ariana Prasad, and welcome back to our global segment. The European Union voted to cap banker bonuses under a new financial plan. The UK opposed this decision, claiming it would discourage investment in the EU financial market. The decision is a reaction to the immense bonuses awarded to bankers following major bank bailouts. Bankers received bonuses several times higher than their base salaries, infuriating the public. Instead of bonuses, this plan dictates that banks set aside money to stabilize their loans with whom they are meant to service, the small business sector. Considering the EU's financial crises in recent years, including ones in Spain and Greece, this move could support the economy and the euro. As Syrian crisis persists, the U.S. government has finally developed a plan to tackling it. The White House confirmed its aid to Syrian rebels, including providing armor, vehicles, and possibly military training. They added that its efforts intend to depose Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Secretary of State John Kerry claims that after 70,000 Syrian deaths, it is time for the U.S. to take action. Despite increased U.S. concern, Syrian ambassador to the UN Bashar al-Jafari calls for national dialogue on the crisis, saying that all concerns must be considered in order to find the best reaction for Syria. Senator Chuck Hagel was sworn in as the U.S. Secretary of Defense Wednesday. The decision passed with a 51-48 vote in the Senate, the closest vote for a defense secretary in history. That may be because of his controversial remarks about U.S. foreign affairs. Hagel did vote for the Iraq War, but he grew to criticize the Bush administration, calling White House efforts beyond pitiful. He wants to improve relations with Iran, trusting them not to be a nuclear threat. However, his mention of a Jewish lobby in Washington that influences American-Israeli relations was perceived as anti-Semitic. Hagel explains that his comment wasn't against Israel, but of the massive Israeli support in Washington. What's most surprising is that Hagel is a Republican and a decorated war veteran. What is his explanation for his remarks? He believes that as defense secretary, he should focus on, well, defense. Improving relations in the Middle East and critiquing our military may make his job easier in the long run. That's all the global news I have for you this week. Back to the desk.
That's all the time we have for Newsbeat today.
Make sure to connect with us on the web. Check out our YouTube channel, LSU Newsbeat. Thanks for joining us and have a great weekend.